Wonder why your shoulder starts to ache after a broken wrist or a hand injury? Maybe you have a cast on your wrist or you had an elbow surgery, but notice your shoulder hurts more than anywhere else. It's a common concern, and if you've experienced it, you're not alone. In this video, I'm sharing a few reasons why you might get shoulder pain after a wrist or an arm injury or fracture, and we'll look at 4 tips to put a stop to that discomfort. Reason number 1 why you might have shoulder pain after a broken wrist or a hand injury is decreased shoulder movement. When you're healing from a broken hand or a wrist, your whole arm is inactive. You're likely not using it at all. You're probably not reaching into cabinets or picking up something off the floor or scratching an itch behind your back. Your whole arm isn't getting the normal daily movement that it's used to. And to make matters worse, that can often be for several weeks. And this lack of movement can cause shoulder stiffness or worse, a frozen shoulder. Now, one solution to stop the shoulder pain or at least reduce the discomfort is to start moving again. Now, I know that might seem obvious, but you want to move your shoulder through its full range of motion, or at least within your current comfort range, several times a day. You want to focus on key movements such as slowly reaching overhead for shoulder flexion, reaching behind your head for external rotation, and reaching behind your back for internal rotation. You can still do a lot of shoulder movements even if you can't fully rotate your forearm because you have a cast on. Now just know that the general rule, if it's not in a splint or a cast, move it. And as your shoulder loosens up, you can eventually begin more complex movements like reaching across your body. In fact, check out my video on shoulder and arm exercises with a cast for more ideas here. Now that brings me to reason number 2 why you might have shoulder pain is arm position. Are you always protecting your arm by keeping it close to your body? This causes your shoulder to stay in internal rotation for prolonged periods of time, which can lead to severe tightness and stiffness. Or are you always holding it up in the air? Your shoulder muscles are contracting for long periods of time if you're just walking around with that cast up in the air. It's like holding a couple of pounds up in the air all day long. So your shoulder might be hurting because your arm is stuck in the same position or positions all the time. And that brings me to the second tip to stop the discomfort, which is change your arm position frequently. Whether it's during your finger exercises or watching TV or doing daily activities, avoid keeping your arm in that same static position. One simple way is to slide a larger pillow under your armpit. This can immediately decrease shoulder pain, and it gets your shoulder out in a little more abduction and in some external rotation. Another tip is to change the position of your arm when you are doing your finger or hand exercises. More than likely, if you broke your wrist or hand, you have some exercises to do. So instead of always propping up on your elbow to do your finger exercises, place your elbow in some extension if you're able to. Prop it up on a few pillows or place your shoulder out to the side into a little abduction and do those finger exercises. Now, if you're looking for a comfortable arm position to sleep in, then check out my video on how to sleep with a broken arm here. Now, reason number 3 is compensation. If you're determined not to let things stiffen up or you have no choice but to use your arm, your shoulder might be working overtime. If your hand and your forearm rotation is restricted because you have a cast or a splint, compensatory movements could be placing more strain on your shoulder. Typically what happens is your shoulder has to move out to the side in some abduction to compensate for the lack of hand or wrist or forearm motion in order to complete the task that you're doing. One reason for the pain could be that you are overusing this deltoid muscle or your trapezius muscle or the supraspinatus muscle, which is one of your rotator cuff muscles. And so the third tip is to minimize compensatory movements as much as possible. I know this can be easier said than done for a lot of activities. But a few strategies that can help are to temporarily move frequently used items to a location such as a countertop that's easily accessible so you don't have to move your arm in weird positions to get to them. Another tip is to slide objects closer to you before you do try to lift them up. But more importantly, be mindful of compensation so you can correct it quickly. And my last reason why your shoulder may be hurting after your wrist or your hand fracture is the possibility of an actual shoulder injury. Typically, a broken wrist is from a fall. Not always, but my point is that if the mechanism of injury is severe enough, like a fall, a car accident, a biking accident, where multiple injuries can be sustained, there's a chance that you really did injure your shoulder too. Think about whether your shoulder became painful immediately, like right after your arm injury, or did it gradually develop weeks later? Soft tissue injuries might not show up right away. Therefore, my fourth tip is to consult your doctor to rule out the possibility of a severe shoulder injury and see an occupational therapist or a physical therapist to check the integrity of your rotator cuff. And there you have it, 4 reasons and 4 tips to put an end to your shoulder pain after a hand injury or a broken wrist. If you found these tips helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button below. And here are some arm and shoulder exercises that you can do in a cast to prevent that stiffness and shoulder pain. Go check them out now. Until next time, thanks for watching.